Hello again, and welcome to another Slam Dunklers podcast. Once again, this is Joe Shea here with John Blevins, and we hope to bring you some more interesting topics based on feedback and other things happening in the world of Magic. So, let's jump right into it. Pro Tour happened last weekend, and I think John would like to start off discussing some interesting insight into that event.
Yeah, Joe, can you believe it? Can you believe that Lotless Troll won the Pro Tour?
Lotless Troll? One second, let me check and see, Lotless Troll?
Yeah, Lotless Troll, man.
You sure?
Yeah, Lotless Troll won the Pro Tour, man.
One second, let me check that. I wasn't really watching this weekend. I was just watching for Abramowski, seeing how he was doing. I didn't actually check any of the deck lists.
Oh, no, not a deck list. Lotless Troll. Craig Wesco is Lotless Troll. He won the...
Oh, got me. Way to be.
He won the Pro Tour.
He won the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about that. No.
That's it?
No, yeah.
Yeah, since we're going on the Craig Wesco bashing, if anyone goes on the MTG Salvation forums or goes to a Google search, if you type in Craig Wesco not washing hands, you'll one of the first posts will be a signature on Salvation talking about a little story this guy posted. It says, the important thing to know about Craig Wesco is that he does not wash his hands after pooping. My buddy and I witnessed this at a PTQ last summer. You did terrible things to the toilet and just walked out the door like that's a thing. I feel it is important to mention this as often as possible.
That's pretty grimy.
Yes.
And also might be the least surprising thing I've heard ever.
So we'd like to take this moment to remind every Magic player, for the love of God, wash your hands when you go to the bathroom, before you play Magic, after you eat. Try to carry on some hygiene. And not everyone's awful at this, but there's enough people to make every store in the world smell, so someone's doing it. So if we can reach one person, and just improve the overall appearance of Magic players as a whole, I would just make my day.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if it didn't stink like terrible in card stores. But that's a high hope.
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is chip away here and there. But the big thing now, Pro Tour, Craig Wesco jokes aside, it was some pretty interesting decks that were showcased. The green-white aggro deck, you'd probably expect to voice Resurgence. The red deck was good. Azorius and Esper Control. And the Maze's End deck was seeing a decent amount of play.
Yeah, did that deck actually have Maze's End as a win condition, or did it just have I saw a deck with Maze that top eight with Maze's End at the sideboard, but it couldn't actually win with Maze's End.
Well, Maze's End is actually really, really insane against control decks because it generates card advantage and
it's Thawing Glaciers.
Yeah, I mean, it's effectively Thawing Glaciers, correct.
Yeah. Which is really good, because hitting your land drops is all you want to do in those decks.
In a control mirror, it's hit every land drop, and, doing so is just the easy to just let games go out of control. Because if you're going to Sphinx for 5, and I'm going to Sphinx for 8, because you missed a land drop or 2 here, I'm just so far ahead every time. I'm going to draw my Dispels and my Render Silence and Syncopates, and I'm just going to grind you down with card advantage.
Yep.
Beyond that, local Buffalo player, Scotty Abramowski, finished in the top 200, which, it doesn't say he didn't win it, but, it happens. He had a good showing. He went 50-50, like 7-7, I guess, against the field, consisting of, a lot of pros. He played Saito and lost. He played Tom Martell. He apparently got...
Please tell me he crushed Tom Martell.
He got Tom Martell to Nerd Rage, apparently.
Ooh, yes. Ooh. Do you know any details of the story?
He had mentioned it to me earlier today that, Martell just squeaked ahead on game 2 and they had went to game 3. And then in there, Martell accused him of slowing a kill spell with lethal on board. And then Scott justified. He's like, yeah, you could have like Pongify in your deck or whatever to blow me out, cause he had like 2 Blood Rush guys in his hand or something like that in one of the draft decks. And yeah, Martell apparently was not very sporty. I was told that Kai does not like Martell either, because Martell tried to scum a win off him at a Pro Tour.
No, he did scum a win off of him. So what happens is this is,
Honolulu.
during, Honolulu, which was, the draft format was, Innistrad Dark Ascension. So Kai is like doing combat math in his head, and he has, the flashback spell that makes target creature unblockable. I don't remember what it's called. But Kai is like doing combat math. He's like picking up his creatures, like trying to like think about how Tom Martell can block, and he goes, okay, flashback, whatever the unblockable spell. And Tom Martell says, no.
You move to combat.
You put your hand, you move to combat. And Kai's like, I never said that. He's like, oh, you put your hands on your creatures. That means you're in combat. And Kai calls a judge. The judge, makes a ruling in Tom Martell's favor, and for whatever reason, Kai didn't appeal. So it ended up being in Tom Martell's favor, and Kai had win on board, and Tom Martell scummed him out of it.
So everyone knows Martell is apparently a scumbag.
Yeah, Pro Tour champion, scumbag.
You know, so always root against him, always disregard him as a human being. You know?
Yeah. Always, hand him, Purell wipes to wipe the grease off of his face.
You need some giant Stridex or Oxy pads for that. You need an Oxy towel for that.
Another little side note about Tom Martell, and speaking of Pro Tours, the last Pro Tour, the one that he won, there was a feature match. It was Brian Kibler versus Tom Martell in the feature match. And Brian Kibler, regarded as one of the more attractive Magic players, in terms of the male side of Magic players. He's a good looking guy, dresses well, does his hair up and all that jazz. So, Brian Kibler, mainstay in the Pro Tour community. Yeah, metrosexualist. That's just what he looks like. I don't know anything about his act, but that's irrelevant. So, long story short, Brian Kibler looking good like he always does on camera. Playing against Tom Martell, pan over, and he just looks like a holiday ham glistening in the oven. He's just like baking in the camera light. Like, I feel like there's like drool just dripping down his face, like his glasses were all fogged up. It's like, man, I would love to see him like do like a half hour on the treadmill, because he would just die. It'd be insane. Like, he's sweating and he's like Conley Wood's like mouth breathing, like, just sitting down and playing Magic. I want to know what it looks like to actually do physical activity. But I also love Conley Woods, that he just
there are some great Conley Wood stories that we'll touch in another future podcast. We got some. So
we'll
so
talk
the Pro
about
Tour
those
was a pretty big success. I guess there were some issues with the sound quality on the Friday. So if you ever complain about the Dunklers podcast, I'm pretty sure that we're on par with the Pro Tour coverage, which probably doesn't say much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the SEG coverage has been consistently better than the Pro Tour coverage for about as long as they've started doing it. And also one other thing about the Pro Tour that came up. Apparently, Alex Bertoncini was complaining about how Day 9, Sean Plott, who, if you're not unfamiliar, is a StarCraft caster. He got a special invite to the Pro Tour.
He did get a feature match on day 1.
He did get a feature match on day 1 at 01, which, for anyone who thought about it for, half a second, realizes that the Pro Tour is to promote the game and to get people to want to play and to get people to buy cards, not to just feature the best matches possible. That's what, the top 8 and the Grand Prix and all that stuff's for. So, pretty much everyone who even thought about it for 2 seconds realized, oh, Denine, he's, probably not good if you haven't seen him. If you have seen him, he's not good. But that's just because he doesn't play that much. But he's obviously not getting the Pro Tour invite because he did something outstanding, like the people who got the, invites because of, like, multiple PTQ top 8s or multiple finals and, like, Grand Prix top 8 but didn't, qualify. Like, there are a couple people like that. Day 9 obviously just, promoting the game, getting people to play. Alex Bertoncini apparently didn't understand that and was great.
I had actually watched the match that he was playing, and he had screwed up like Cypher once or twice, and I mean that's a more kind of a complex mechanic, which it was actually strange too because his opponent actually made a misplay on an easier rule, and did that.
Yeah, his opponent was arguably
I
worse than he
could
was.
remember.
It gives me just all the confidence in the world to get
I
on the Pro
the
Tour.
thing with the opponent messed up something really, really trivial.
Yeah. He tried to cast Armado Worm without, like, double white.
Cast spell without proper mana. But
Yeah.
I just want to just say, it wasn't, it seemed pretty bad because he was stumbling a little bit. He probably wasn't ready for a feature match on camera, streaming
Right.
thousands of people in a game he probably is not great at. So, I mean, you have to expect it. It's gonna happen. I mean, people make mistakes on camera a lot. I mean, it's the way it is. Good players make mistakes all the time. Welcome to Magic.
Yep.
But,
yeah. And, so Alex Bertoncini was apparently raging about that. And, just didn't realize that the PT stream had, I think, almost 20K viewers, which is like a lot more than it normally gets. And it's also a lot for Magic. Yeah, and so you can assume that Day 9 brought, at least a couple thousand, StarCraft players, who may not have watched the stream otherwise. So that was a pretty good thing.
And, beyond that, there were a lot of people who were raging, but, in response to the Bertoncini thing, is, I think it's absurd. Like, if I want to complain about it, I think that's, fine. If you want to, that's fine, whatever. But, like, if you're banned from playing Magic, for cheating,
no less.
Like, who are you to complain about anything? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you can have your views and that's fine. But, like, to be vocal and to hate on a guy for that, or hate on Wizards for that, it seems pretty dirty considering the fact that, like, you, like, hurt the integrity of the game and hurt, like, the Star City circuit for a while. And I'm pretty sure it was, his, actions, especially when he had won the championship or whatever, when the full set of power, in the 10,000 track, that was all up in the air for a while because, people, he was cheating, got suspended, and they withheld it, and no one knew what was going on. Like, Magic, for a while there, it was kind of like, people were, like, just assuming that everyone who played, like, Magic and did well or played competitively was just a cheater. And that hurt the game.
Yeah, and I think it ended up, having Star City, like, reevaluate its, philosophy for the whole SCG Open series. Remember how they had the basically SCG Pro levels where you could, like, grind out SCGs and get the SCG points?
The bonuses.
Yeah, that got completely neutered after the whole Bertoncini and Edgar Flores thing. So, it used to be like, if you had the option to go to a Grand Prix or a Star City, you just take the Star City because getting to, like, SCG, like, gold level or whatever the highest one was just, like, massively higher EV than, like, top 8ing a Grand Prix,
Yeah, I apologize. We kind of went on several tangents there. We were talking about the world of Magic and not too much on the cards themselves. But, David Adams ran the Buffalo's Best Magic tournament, and, that happened over the weekend. That's a thing.
Yeah, that was in fact.
So, as a general recap, they give out $1,900 in prizes, cash prizes, 4 boxes cards, they gave out a couple door prizes for people pre-registered, a couple other things like that. They had pizza for everyone, wings. They had a lot of cheese pizza, which was great because not everyone's a pepperoni person. That went well. They had pretzels and hummus. They fed pretty well. That was kind of awesome of them. I will say the pretzels and hummus was a great surprise. It's nice going to a Magic tournament and having something to eat, especially as the store providing it for you and having almost a short little intermission for people to eat. That's definitely something you don't see at any tournament. But I'm going to defer to John on this, and I'll let him go to town on his thoughts and give a little mini rant or discussion or speech moment, whatever he wants to call it. So it's all yours, John.
Alright. So, I want to start off by saying that this tournament was in theory, in philosophy, everything about it, was pretty sweet. After SCG Buffalo, which was like the first, real, exposure for the Buffalo area to
competitive
get
play?
a competitive tournament besides like F&M or like GPTs, I guess, were like the highest level of.
Yeah, but they don't have a competitive feel to it though.
No, they don't, because a lot of times people don't care, and they're just playing it basically as, like, the second F&M that they just happen to, like, stumble upon. And a lot of times they're not advertised. But, having an actual high-level, another high level Magic tournament with real prizes, not just a lot of times stores will give out like boxes as prizes, which is great or whatever.
People love opening packs.
When when you see cash money on
This was a Pawn Stars amount of cash.
This was a Pawn Stars amount of cash. Sean Orange was definitely making it rain with the 1900.
Yeah, he really backed the Buffalo community and said, let's have faith. They're gonna, come out in numbers, support the tournament, and just play Magic and represent Buffalo, and show Wizards that hey, we deserve a PTQ. We deserve.
Yeah. Oh man, a Buffalo PTQ.
Yes,
would be sweet.
It would be.
But yeah. So the whole idea of the tournament was great. They announced it a couple months ago, and people have been excited about it. I was excited about it. I pretty much prepped for it just like I would a GP or a PTQ. The stakes were pretty high for this tournament. There was a lot of people there, and it was it was really fun, leading up to it, and I really was excited about it. That being said, there were a few concerns, and if it sounds like I'm being accusatory or anything, I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to be constructive and helpful, but also honest, because I'm not affiliated with David Adams in any way, so I'm not going to pull any punches. But but this type of tournament is the type of thing that's very good for Buffalo and Buffalo Magic and competitive Magic players. So
you want it to do well. You want to work the kinks out. You want to make sure we have another one.
I'm not trying to screw people over. I'm not trying to get people mad. I'm trying to make it so that these tournaments can happen and that they can happen in a good way. So, the first thing, so we get to the tournament and, the normal struggle, pre-tournament where, everyone's digging for cards, writing down deck lists. Of course, the head judge, Joe Shea, who, you guys may have heard of because, I'm talking to him. Everyone and their mother is waiting in line for him, not because he's the head judge of the tournament, but because he has 80% of the top 8 decks in his binders. So, that happens. So right off the bat, there was a little bit of a weird thing that happened that doesn't happen at Magic tournaments usually. There wasn't a player meeting. It was 15 minutes before the tournament time. We were instructed to turn our deck list in, or there's a countdown to the time when we turn our deck list in. And I'm sitting with Ryan and Radijak and Travis and some people, and we're like, what? You never turn in your deck list. You turn your deck list in.
Player meeting, yeah. That's definitely something that, probably could have got fixed. Not having an structure set up in which things would be done methodically for everyone at the same time was kind of a problem.
One judge is also a little.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It's rough when you're the only judge there, but I mean, that's it's neither here nor there. It's an excuse.
But it's still something that can.
Yes. I think that a big thing would have been to discuss things a little more with the tournament organizer and things like that. That's oversight partially on my part, I will say, and a little bit on the TO's part. But definitely collecting lists together, having a player meeting to explain things would have been helpful. I think the major issue with that was coming from more casual kind of laid back F&M. He probably wasn't ready for the ins and outs of the way competitive tournaments are done.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the issues were just as a result of that, just being unfamiliar with how more competitive tournaments are run.
Absolutely. But that's also why.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Why I'm doing this right now. So there was that. So whatever, we get our deck lists in, everything's fine. So, but at this point, we didn't realize that there wasn't going to be a player meeting. The players did. So they call time or whatever, so we're waiting around a little bit, and so we hear pairings are getting posted, and we're like, I guess there's no players meeting, whatever. This isn't like a GP or a PTQ or any of that, so, no players meeting, whatever. No big deal. We look at the pairings for round one, and we see a bunch of buys, which we'd heard about. David Adams has their F&M series or whatever, where the regulars get points for doing well, or et cetera. You get buys for top finishes.
I gotta say, I don't want to interrupt,
fine.
but I wasn't a huge fan of that. It seems like in a tournament where you're giving out, a decent amount of cash like that, you really want everyone on an equal playing field, as opposed to, hooking your regulars up with a buy. I don't know. I mean, it seemed a little rough to me.
As someone who doesn't ever go to David Adams, I still think I like that from their perspective, because you want to reward people for playing at your store. If there's someone who is, because there are plenty of people that go to both stores, Dark Forest and David Adams, and if it's a toss up, on a Friday night, and you're like, I don't want to go to Dark Forest, I want to go to David Adams. It's like, I really don't have a shot of getting with Levin, so I might as well just get my points to David Adams, which, by the way, you always have a shot with Levin. But that's neither here nor there. If it's a toss up, you got to think, if I would have had a buy at the 1K event, I'm going to just, head on over to David Adams. So, from a business perspective, I agree with what they did.
I agree with it as well. My main point of contention was, during their F&Ms or when they had made the announcement for, hey, we're playing F&Ms, we're doing this, we're doing that. There was no, mention of like getting a buy at the tournament or things like that. So it seemed like people who got the buys just kind of stumbled upon them and weren't, planning on getting them.
Well, I mean, that's a thing that they probably should have addressed. I don't, like I said, I don't know any of the inner workings of David Adams, but that's another thing that they can do. So business perspective, I agree with that, even though it literally just hurts me if I don't go to that store. But whatever. So we see the buys, and I'm playing, and I'm like, oh, I got paired against Kathy Boatman in round one. I'm like, whatever. I play her every tournament, and it's like, whatever. I don't care. I knew at some point in the tournament I was going to play someone I knew. There's only 80. There's shy of 100, but more than like 70. Like
I'm guessing 80 to 85 people.
80-ish people there. I'm like, whatever. I know a lot of people here. I'm going to play something. So I go and sit down. I'm at table 2. I'm like, okay, table 2. My last name. I'm like, whatever. I'm playing against Boatman Blevins. Table 2. Okay, the wheels are starting to turn. I'm like, that's fine. I sit down, and I'm sitting down next to Travis, who, for those who don't know, his last name is
starts
Allen.
with an A.
He's at table. Starts with an A. He's at table 1. He sits down next to, or he sits down across from, I don't remember the kid's name, but he runs he co-founded the UB Magic Club. Shout out to UB Magic Club, I guess. And I know that his last name starts with an A as well, or a B. I don't know. It's A or B. I'm like, okay, now things are starting to get a little bit too coincidental for my liking. So I'm looking around. I'm like, who's to my left? Alex Carson, CA. And we asked the guy that's playing him. He's like CA. He's another CA. I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm like, this is literally just alphabetical. Call you over. Address the problem. Talk with Sean or whatever, the TO. And the TO makes an announcement. For those of you who are concerned about the pairings being alphabetical, this is because we had to put the buys in. It's still random. It just has to do with your last name. Which, I don't know exactly how Wizards Tournament Reporter works, but I feel like there's gotta be something wrong.
Well, I can give you a quick little rundown on that. So what happens with Reporter is you can pair things up randomly, or you can assign them. Okay? And what happens is if I've never given out buys before, so I'm not, 100% familiar with this, but I have no problem taking, Sean's word on this. But, when you do things, out of the norm, like give out a buy, or things like that, Reporter doesn't randomly assign the rest of the matches. So you'd have to do it manually. So as a result, what he did was, say, hey, instead of, guessing who wants to play who, or things like that, he just said, okay, 1 plays 2, 2 plays, or 3 plays 4, 5 plays 6, instead of doing it randomly. So I mean, the other way that it could have been done was to have him randomly pair, which, I mean, I've done it before, and you can't really make it random, but you can make it close enough to random where it's not, it's not awful, especially if you have no rooting interest. You don't have to pair, someone who's going to stomp you like Blevins, up against someone who's just going to get owned, because Blevins stomps everyone.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yep. So that was a concern. I feel like there's probably another way to do it, but that's just another
They can look
thing
into it and figure it out.
Can and should be looked into before the next one. And that's where the name #GP Player Builder came from. Because although apparently it didn't happen, there were at least a couple sets of siblings that I think they all dodged each other, but like playing round 1 against your brother in the tournament is just the nut low, and so that it just put like a little bit of a bad taste.
It's not the way you want to start off an event.
Right. But it was fine. It was whatever. So there was that. Now the whole pizza and wings thing that Joe said was, I've got to say, fantastic idea. I don't know if it seems like it's just too much of a time and money investment to make like a regular thing at most tournaments, but I've got to say it will definitely get people to keep coming back to your tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows that Sean or the TO, whoever takes care of it. Like, if you're willing to do that for your players, like, you really care about them having a good time. You're making sure that literally all of their needs are met, and that's a great selling point. I mean, it's just a huge way to improve your tournament, is making sure everyone's well fed.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Even if it's like just having concessions at a place that aren't like the best you get usually is like convention center concessions, and they're massively overpriced.
Not good.
And just grease. Yeah. So that was a really great thing.
The concessions are like Tom Martell, just greasy.
Yeah, just grease coke and shitty. Even though he's a really good match player, but so 2 more things, and then like a conclusionary wrap up. So we're playing the rounds. The rounds are going swimmingly. Me, Madonia, Ryan, and some people were all either XO or X1, and we're talking about the math and the numbers for top 8, and we're looking at it, and we're like, okay, you can go 5-0, double draw, or whatever, and we're looking at it, and we're like, oh, wait a second, there are more people than we thought. When we originally were thinking at the beginning of the tournament, we didn't know the number of people. We assumed it was like around 60. Turns out it was like you said, around 80. So instead of 6 rounds working out nicely with like 60-ish people, it was 6 rounds for 80-ish people, which throws all the math off completely.
And on top of that, the buys were given out to 16 players, which really threw the math off too. So I mean, it was hard to guess on it.
The math got completely thrown off. So basically, we concluded if you're X1, you have to play no matter what. Like if you lose, you play a win and in for the rest of the game, which is fine because I lost in round 2 and then won out to get in. So I play my last round. I get in. I'm pretty confident I'm top 8ing because I was the 10th seed. I was like one of the highest X1s going in to the final round of Swiss. And I got there, and I was pretty confident I was going to. So we see the standings at the end of the Swiss, and we see that there are going to be 2 X1s, 2 people who are 5-1, that are going to be in 9th and 10th place. Now, when you've been playing for pretty much any amount of time in a tournament. If you are X and 1 in virtually any tournament, you're almost always guaranteed the top 8. If the correct number of rounds is used, you're guaranteed the top 8. You can feel pretty confident you're top 8ing at X and 1. So after playing, 6 rounds plus a little intermission, so, 6+ hours of Magic, you're X1, you're like, alright, I'm in. That was not the case. 2 people got bubbled out of the top 8 at X and 1, which from the people I've talked to, both who top 8'd and who got bubbled, I talked to both people who got bubbled. That was probably the biggest negative of the tournament, was the fact that the rounds screwed over 2 guys. Now, I can't confirm or deny this, but from what I heard, one of the guys that X1 and in top 8 talked to Sean, who I told him to talk to Sean, because Sean is known for being a people pleaser and trying to make people happy and get things set straight. I heard that he ended up getting 17 packs or something. Like, he got something for getting bubbled out. I don't know if you know any more on that story.
No, I'm pretty sure that he did get some number of packs. I don't know how many, but he did get something for it. I know Sean felt bad. And Sean's the kind of guy who, really seems to be throwing product around, throwing money around to make sure everyone has good experience and things like that. So.
Yep. So, yeah. Sean definitely knows that. So there was that. That was probably the biggest concern that most people had. Like, the top 8, like, even the people that did top 8, I was like, man, that's just bad.
Players could empathize, if they were in that position, it would suck.
Yep. So that was probably the biggest one. And the last one, this was kind of a story at the very beginning, like the very, very beginning when they announced the tournament, and it kind of concluded into the end of the tournament, and it was more, I think, of just not being used to the Magic tournament scene from the TO perspective, like the competitive Magic tournament scene. So originally the tournament was basically just top 4 prizes. And for those of us that are used to playing competitive Magic, it's always cut the top 8. Top 8 is the distinction. Top 16, price might pay down to top 16, but top 8 is where the distinction is made. The top 8 are going to have the glory and the big bucks, the big prizes, all that sort of stuff is in the top 8. From what was announced at the beginning and what ended up, happening, it was really a huge emphasis for seemingly no reason other than the numbers might have worked better for the $1,000 first prize, and that just like breaking it down somewhat evenly to pay out the top 4, but so basically the 4 people who top 8'd but didn't top 4 basically lost $400 in their top 8 match, which is pretty insane, considering that they top 8'd around a 100-person tournament, and you get a box when the person who won their match and then didn't play any other matches after that split the top 4 and got $475 versus the 75 cash a box is worth, or whatever, maybe a little more. That was just it seemed like it felt especially hurtful for me because obviously I top 8'd in the top 4, but even from having a week to really think about it and not just react with, oh man, I lost a bunch of money, screw these guys, I lost, blah, wham, wham, wham. Really taking the time to think out, what happened and take a step back a little bit and have a more objective view on it rather than just me whining about me getting my $25 box, first person problem.
Well, I guess my question then for that, since you bring up an issue like that, would be to, how would you consider, changing the prize pool in a way that would be, perhaps a little more to, not necessarily your liking, but, better for those involved in the tournament.
Yeah. I think perhaps what they could have done was just cut the boxes and just give out, I mean, maybe if it's, like, I know that their big selling point was $1,000
Yes.
first prize. That's fine. So you keep that, and then it was, what,
500, 200, 200.
500, 200, okay. So I feel like you take the money for, you can keep your $1,000 first prize, take the money from the boxes and just cash it, I mean, even if it's less, and then just divide that more evenly amongst the top 8, because, like, if you top 8 the tournament and it's a cash tournament, you expect to get cash. I mean, maybe that's just me thinking. But like, if you top 8 a big tournament like that and they're giving out cash prizes, like SCG, if you top 8 an SCG event, you're expecting cash prizes. You're not expecting to get like, I top 8'd, I got 7th at a SCG event and they gave me 2 years of premium. Like, that's not what you want. It's like, oh, if I would have won, I would have gotten $600, but I got 2 years of premium instead. It's just like a slap in the face almost.
Okay, that's a rather interesting take. Yeah, I think you're definitely right that, perhaps, redistributing the prizes for the top 8 would have been a bit better, so those who, did top 4 would have, maybe something more than a box, but, like maybe cash or breaking things down. Honestly, I think part of it was they didn't know what to expect in terms of turnout, so they kind of had to keep it a little on the conservative side.
Yeah. They didn't want to lose too much money on it, and if you're not a person who's gone to multiple GPs or multiple, PTQs, like, to turn top 8 to a non, competitive Magic player, it's like, okay, you top 8'd, but what about top 4? Like, most people, at least from my experience, who aren't Magic players, are in the, college basketball mindset in terms of, like, what's good. So, like, what really rings with people is Final Four. So, having the top 4 prizes for someone from a TO that's not necessarily, as into the competitive Magic scene, it kind of makes sense, because, like, the Final Four is a large selling point for a lot of people. Whereas in the Magic community, it's almost
Top 8.
always top 8. It's like that's what everyone goes for. You top 8 a PTQ, top 8 a GP. It's like, that's the distinction. 9th place is what doesn't matter. I mean, top 4ing is great, but your initial goal is you got to get that.
That's always the cutoff.
And it makes sense because that's where the tournament cuts. So, like, it just from maybe, I don't know, it just seems like out of style, I guess, to just not have top 8 be distinct. And it kind of continued over because, like, at the end, they were taking pictures and they had all the top 4 with the cash photos, and they're like, okay, thanks guys, you guys can go now. And I'm like, well, what? There's no top 8 picture. And he's like, yeah, we can do a top 8 picture. And it's like, well, I've got my box. It's stupid, obviously, to just want the picture or whatever, but, like,
it's nice to get some, distinguish, like, you feel like you've done something. Like, yeah, I'm on the website, I top 8 this event. I can definitely see that. That definitely makes sense.
It just, like, basically, too long didn't read or too long didn't listen. Just hear this. Instead of having the distinction be the top 4, just have the top 8. I mean, it's just plain and simple. Yeah. I feel like I had something else to say, but I haven't been for a while. So. The other thing, which is a little more of just a miscommunication, was me personally going into the top 8. I don't know why. I just didn't think that we were doing splits.
Okay.
So, like, everyone just started playing top 8, and then when the top 8 was done, someone brought up doing a split, and I'm like, well, I would have done a split in top 8, and then they split top 4, which is how they all got $475 cash. But, like, that's kind of a moot point because I'm pretty sure that they at least one person would have no-served the split anyway, so I would have ended up playing anyway. So I would have been in no different situation, but just having the option presented. I mean, like, from what I know about the SCG top 8s, they just always ask, and they always do it in the anonymous way, so people don't get pressured
in the top 4, I made sure to do the the anonymous way, just to make sure. Cause people were looking at me like I was crazy, but it's something you kind of have to do because you don't be that guy who gets like chastised 3 weeks from now because I mean, in other tournaments, if you go if you travel for a tournament, you're not gonna know those people, but in a Buffalo tournament, like if you don't split with me and I get knocked out, you win or whatever, I mean, I would expect the person to be a little salty at you for, kind of, not doing a split.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
That much money.
So doing it anonymously is the way to go. But yeah, I think, perhaps offering, just, expressing, hey, if you guys want to do a split the top 8, you can. That's, definitely, something to look into. It didn't cross my mind, actually. I mean, in all honesty, for me, it didn't cross my mind.
Yeah, no, I figured. And I was talking with some of the guys before, and I'm pretty sure that they didn't want to split anyway, so it wouldn't have, I mean, I would have slammed split. It would have been it would have been $275
and like
each,
a half a box. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been, it would have been
1900 would have been about $230 in a box. Half box.
$230 in a half box. So which, me sitting here with and the game out box the gate crash was also, which just added insult to injury at the time. Yeah. We got everyone in the top 4.
I'd rather have gate crash. Dragon's Maze is awful.
What is good? That's not the point. Dragon's Maze is better than gate crash though. But regardless, it's you gave us an old set, you gave us a box instead of anything else. But it's really just, it's whatever. But those are my suggestions, my critique of the tournament. Overall, like I said before, thumbs up. Thumbs up to David Adams. Thumbs up for the whole idea, whoever came up with the idea. Great idea. I think it really I think it was a definite sign that things in the Buffalo Magic community have kind of started shifting in a new direction, and I'm really liking the competitiveness and the high level.
The skill level has definitely improved on a lot of players. I mean, I feel like, about 2 years ago I could name, 3-4 guys who could, top 8 a PTQ or day 2 a Grand Prix, and I'm like, I can name you 15. Maybe more.
Yeah.
No.
I'm still not one of them, but.
Should bet at 2014.
So I'm definitely excited to see the next Buffalo's best Magic tournament. And, I had one more thing to say, and it was important.
Alright, well, instead of the dead air, I'll mention something. I'm also wondering, the tournament, it did go pretty well. I'd be curious as if David Evans would be interested in maybe doing another tournament, maybe not like $1,000 cash prize, maybe, 500 first, and then just give out other stuff like that. Like a smaller scale tournament, but one that encourages more people to come out. I mean, not encourages, I mean, that's not the way I wanted it to sound, but maybe, increase the amount of people, maybe make it, smaller entry fee or something like that, because, $25 for a tournament, I mean, it is great for such a huge cash prize, but there's a lot more of the very casual players, who aren't gonna, pay $25 for that. So maybe if they did like a, $10 or $15 entry, it made first place like 500, and then, did just come up with minimums for second, third, fourth, and all the way down to 8, and then maybe scale it up based on the number of participants. That'd be something they could do maybe in every 3 to 6 months, and, just have these Magic events, and, really show Wizards that, it's not a one-time thing where, we're dedicated to making this, a huge area, and, that might be another good selling point. Cause go ahead, I'm saying the player is nice, and they can fit a lot of people well, and, they really, seem to get people coming out, so.
And also, I talked to some of the Millennium guys when I was playing, and they're like, "Oh, there's a tournament." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh man, we would have came out for that." So that's a whole, you throw $1K on a tournament, and people are gonna start driving. Like if this was in
Yeah.
that game card, I definitely
Yeah,
would
and getting the word out to, people in Erie, people in the South Towns, people, in Rochester and Ithaca. People drive an hour, 2 hours to play Magic for a day with a decent cash prize. Just playing Magic for a day was great.
Yeah.
Oh, actually there's something I really do want to mention. I don't know if, I know they're probably David Adams regulars. I don't know if they listen or whatever. But if you were at the tournament, there was this little kid running around just dying to play Magic. Just asking people when they were finished the match, hey, you wanna play a game, you wanna play a game, you wanna play a game. It was awesome. Like that was like my high point right there. The kid just dying to play Magic. And that's, I think that's, what Magic's supposed to be. Just, playing with people, having fun. And he seemed to be having a blast. So that was definitely awesome for me. Like that was not something I expected. It was a huge, awesome surprise. So I'm glad I saw that.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Oh, I also remember what I wanted to say. It's coming from Macho Man Randy Savage, also known in this iteration, it's Bonesaw, because Orange, we're looking for you, Dark Forest, David Adams Grudge Match, 3 minutes, lead time.
Was
Dark Forest, David Adams Grudge Match. You heard it here. Challenges out. We will put up your team. We don't know how it's going to work, but the challenge is officially out on the air. Dark Forest challenging
was just called
David
out.
Adams.
Called out. Went to the media.
Because,
didn't even talk to him, in person. The most reputable Buffalo Magic news source.
All I have to say is Bonesaw is ready.
So, on that note, there was some talk after the event of, all the Buffalo stores getting in and, playing events and, represent their store and things like that. I was doing a lot of thinking about it because, it's an awesome idea. But, there's definitely gonna be some hurdles to that and, I think it's something we can maybe touch on, in a later show because I think it'd be interesting maybe mapping out some players, seeing, where the cards lie and where things would be. But it's definitely something interesting to look into and would be a great talking point in the future.
Just to go back to the whole tournament critique thing. If the guys at David Adams have any, sort of questions or anything about tournament structure or want us to talk about ideas for stuff, you can
definitely.
Contact me on Facebook or whatever. I'm not trying to hide stuff. I'm not trying to sell information. I really just want these tournaments
great
to be
day Magic
as well as possible, and because they really are helping.
Yeah, all you can say is, if anyone from, the Dave and Adams higher ups that want to, break some things down, map out, ways to improve, things like that would be great. And more importantly too, if, I don't know if the David Adams players, they aren't all really on Facebook. I talked to a few of them. They don't, they seem, relatively newer faces to me. If you know people from there, mention the podcast to them. It might help their game. It'll maybe help them feel part of the Magic community. Cause it really is about the community. Another thing too is, have them get a hold of me if they have any rules questions or things like that. Cause, I'm here to help and stuff like that. I'll do the best I can. And if not, I'll get you a good player to, help with deck choices or ways to get better. I don't know. I can help a little bit with that. I'm not the greatest, but I can help with rules, things like, if you're not playing 61 cards, you're playing something wrong. I can assure you that.
That was my biggest concern with the tournament, is that the judge who has a podcast that he's talking on right now refused to shamelessly self-promote him at a tournament with hundreds of people.
Yeah, I definitely should have. I did a little bit. But you recovered that fumble and you ran with it when you posted the link to the podcast and the Facebook page on the David Adams site, so people will see it. They'll see a couple, the more well-known faces in the community, some of the outspoken guys, and hopefully that gets the word out and things like that.
Yeah.
We've been going for a little while. Do you want to maybe tackle another topic, or do you want to, cut it for the day?
I think we've got quite a bit of content. We don't want to give them too much, or else we gotta have
Alright.
begging back some more next
So yeah,
week.
on that note, I did receive some feedback, from a couple people, and, it's generally pretty positive, a couple things on structure and stuff like that. It's definitely good. Any topics you want covered, let me know.
Yeah,
viewer questions would be great.
Viewer questions.
Maybe we're looking at getting a guest person to maybe talk about stuff. That's great. I think for next week, we'll probably look at, I think the big topic I'd like to discuss is modern. It's a format that's really starting to take some steam, gather steam. I forget the expression. I have a bad time. Yeah, it's becoming more popular. Modern Masters, I know there's 5 spoilers on Salvation, but, I saw a couple of the cards leaked. I talk about Jace the Mind Sculptor, and talk about Modern just as a format as a whole. On top of that, we're open for some other topics and anything like that. So if you have them, fire them off to me, post them on the page, post them to John, whatever. We like talking about, pretty much anything. So if there's something you really want to hear, let us know. Let your friends know about the podcast, let your Magic, all your Magic buddies and, your casual friends, whatever. It's probably not the worst thing to just, pimp us out a bit. We like the attention.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, speaking of pimping out, you can check out my Twitch channel, which I haven't been streaming lately because I've been doing these stupid 5:30 in the morning to 2 shifts, so I've been tired and have not streamed at all, but I'm going to hopefully at some point be getting a regular streaming schedule down. You can follow me at twitch.tv/fatwall33, that's FATTWALL33. And you can also follow me on Twitter, it's at _grand_hippo on Twitter. You can follow me there. You can ask me questions on there. You can ask me questions or Joe questions on the Slam Dunklers podcast Facebook page. Make sure to like us on Facebook. If you feel so obligated, I guess you can add me on my regular Facebook. I don't really care. I might as well have as many friends as possible. Boost my self-confidence, my self-esteem,
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as well if you want to get a hold of me. I am the king of the haters. King of the haters. No spaces, no nothing. Awesome. I generally hate on things, post random things about myself, but if you want to turn it into like a Magic thing, questions, whatever, anything you want, you go right ahead. Actually, there's another one thing I'd like to mention as a very parting thing. There was the card Soul Ransom. There's a lot of debate about this. It came up at a Giant event. So, with Soul Ransom, if the cards are discarded and the creature is then destroyed, perhaps like a Pongify effect or something like that, the player still does get to draw the 2 extra cards off the Soul Ransom trigger. There's a little discussion about going on the past couple of weeks. I've heard different answers given, so that is the final say on that. Yes. Yeah, I was actually, incorrect on Tuesday. I had misread the card. And, I assumed that you didn't get them because it wasn't around, but the trigger is on the stack when that happens.
Although I guess I actually did know that.
Yeah.
So I played it on Magic Online.
Yeah, that's just a little ruling thing that, seems to be good to be mentioned. On top of that, if you have a judge question, get a hold of me. We can, we'll break it down, explain things out. It'll help you understand the game a bit better. And, get rid of any, misconceptions or incorrect ways that someone's playing the game. So, on that note, thanks for doing the podcast, John. Thanks for the feedback we got, and we hope to see you next week. Tell your friends, keep on dunkling. Oh yeah. Keep calm and dunkle on. Alright, bye guys.
See ya.